Listen to timely advice from experts as we discuss all things leadership and technology. You'll get the inside scoop on better business practices, from making the most of your technology to leading a company with your head and heart. Pull up a seat with Marco CEO Jeff Gow and President Doug Albrechts. Let's tech.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Let's Tech, where we talk all things leadership and technology, and we do insert other things too, right, Jeff?
We sure do.
For the most part.
Mostly worthwhile.
Hey, listen, right out of the gate, I'm going to apologize to our listeners because we tried to do this remote. Our lovely and super competent executive producer, Brittany, tried to pull this off remote, and I just laid an egg. So I got to apologize to Greg, Jake, the YMCA. We didn't do everybody justice here. That was my fault.
Well, the dog barking in the background, we're getting used to that kind of stuff, but, that was a good touch.
That's right. But we have another doozy today in technology, right? We're going to talk about, a little digitization and
getting efficient. How to be more efficient in what we're doing, right? And we're all three sitting in the room together today, aren't we? Hey, you know what else I forgot to mention before we get started? We usually talk about the fact we might sometimes have matching clothes on and things like that are not relevant to the content. But
we do that.
We're having dinner together tonight.
We are.
So because you're in town, I've been waiting to go to a new restaurant, pretty new in the area.
Yeah.
And I know that you live very close to there, so we're looking forward to that. So
flip them a bone. Are you going to, give them a little bit of action? Are you going to plug them here?
We're going to go to the Crew.
Yeah.
And the Crew is in St. Joseph, Minnesota. I look forward to being there tonight. Look forward to seeing you tonight. It'll be awesome.
What we're talking about today is not a new concept. When the three of us got together, it's funny because our guests can't talk until we introduce them. I love that part of this whole thing.
It's very effective, isn't it?
Well, when we were talking about this, I am a history major, and the first thing I thought about was scientific management and Frederick Taylor. It's the one thing that sticks out at the University of Wisconsin where I went to school. I hope that's not a dig on Wisconsin, but it was the theory of scientific management that analyzed and synthesized workflows, and how do you make those workflows more efficient? And this was, if you think about it, when they taught this was back in a day where they had zero technology. And so they were talking about efficiency at that time. So this, I think we'd like to say, for lack of a better description, is scientific management on steroids, and it's about automation, Jeff, right?
Totally. And automation, you know what? And you know this, Doug, and so does our guest here, that we can't introduce yet because we're going to do that in a minute. Automation has been one of our major strategic initiatives since January. So it's not something new, but when you just use the subject of automation, efficiency, you kind of go, is this going to be boring today, or how's that going to actually work out? But the bottom line is this. With price compression, meaning lower prices in so many of the industries that we're in, we have to hold our margins. I mean, who's not trying to hold their profit margins when prices are going down? And the only way you can really do that is if you have a more efficient organization. And one of the ways of leveraging that is to leverage technology. And so as prices are coming down, it's hard to compete and sustain profitability. We're going to talk today about how we help you keep those margins and what we've done to gain efficiency and move employees towards those high-touch jobs and be more strategic in how we address our marketplaces.
Yeah, so this one, more so than any other initiative, really called upon our IT expertise. And we do have a gentleman in the room here that I think has led that. He is we're lucky enough to be able to call him our Chief Technology Officer. Anyway, he has a great perspective leading our teams in the field. He's a highly technical guy, which is really good for a Let's Tech podcast. And he keeps his skills. He's very sharp by not just kind of dictating the work. He actually is in the field. He rolls up his sleeves. I'd like to welcome Clay Ostlund to the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. Now that I can talk, thank you for introducing me.
Okay, that's good. Now let's go on.
Let's get to the meat of this. So, Clay, how, the digitization projects have made an impact to the organization. How would you say that's happened here at Marco?
Well, first of all, to the listeners, I just want to say thank you for joining. But at Marco, we're really focused on taking software tools, custom development, process improvement, and using that to improve both our customer and our employee satisfaction. our company efficiency, and our profitability. And that's really been the focus of our goal this year and into the coming years.
Hey, you know, when we talk about efficiency, that means different things sometimes to different people and in different situations. And here at Marco, or from my perspective, when we talk about me being more efficient, it's things going smoother for a customer and the experience. But it's also about how do we do it with less costs, at the same time not degrading the customer experience or the employee experience. So profit margins are always important, and they're in every business. It doesn't matter what type of industry you're in, but they became more important during COVID. And by the way, profit's not a dirty word. It's a good thing. I expect the vendors that we work with that they should have a profitable relationship with us, not necessarily make it all off of us, but certainly have a reasonable and a profitable relationship. That's how you sustain. One of the benchmarks we use is called EBITDA. EBITDA. Those of you in private business and maybe to some degree even in for-profit, you understand that's really earnings. So earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. But what it really means is what are your earnings? And so earnings it's a scorecard. But it also can be measured by productivity when we talk about efficiency. What's your revenue? You know, how much do you sell per employee? What's your gross profit for FTE? These are terms when we're measuring productivity gains, when we're measuring efficiency. So how have these efforts improved customer service? Tell me a little bit about like our just-in-time inventory.
So when we look at digitization efforts, we look at it from multiple points of view. The first, from a profitability standpoint, is how can we improve our systems to make the transactions or the interactions with our customers go through all of the processes faster? How can we make them more accurate so that we don't have to do manual entry of data, for example? And how can we make things flow through the system that's better for our employees and better for our customer experience? The result of that is almost always better profitability. So if we don't have to manually enter data into 4 systems and we're putting it in one time and it flows across all those systems, we've eliminated 3 or 4 steps just on every transaction. Now, if you take that times the thousands and thousands of toner transactions that happen every month, you can see that the efficiency grows pretty quickly. So better service for our customers because things go through the process faster, but also better experience for our employees because they're not having to do mundane work, right? We can free them up to do stuff that's more satisfying for them.
So what role did your team play in helping us drive more of a just-in-time delivery system around the products that we distribute?
And maybe we should do a little bit for the listeners on what just-in-time is. And so the concept behind that is in the old way of doing things, we would take an order for a piece of toner. We would take that, enter it in the system. We would go to our warehouse. We would order it from a distributor. It would come into us. Then we would ship that product out to the customer. Some smart guy that we hired that may or may not be in the room thought, hey, why do we do all that work? We should just ship it directly from our distributor. And
who's taking credit for that? Or are you giving it?
I'm giving it.
Way to go. That's out of character, but good job.
Oh,
okay, Doug.
Thank you, Doug. So,
well, hang on. Before you do that, because this is important, I think just in time, it's difficult for me to be serious through this whole thing, but I'm really going to be. It became probably the most, when you think of just-in-time delivery, you think of Dell. Dell grew their business on just-in-time. Every manufacturer that made computers before Dell, they made a standard computer, they put it on the shelf, and you had to sell it. And Dell basically, Michael Dell's a genius because he came and said, hey, you know what, we're going to build it. When you order it, we'll build it and ship it to you, but we're not going to build it until that happens. And I think that's where it became such a prominent type of acronym.
Yeah, and in the field of the toner concern here that we're talking about, we now can automate when a toner needs to be shipped. We send that order directly to our distribution partners, and that is then shipped directly to the customer. So the customer no longer has to order a toner. We just send it to them when it's ready or when they need it. Our systems are all automated to take that information in and pass it to the parties, and so there's no longer error if people mistype something. And so it's made our people happier, our customers get things faster, and it's also significantly more cost effective for Marco.
So that's just in time. What other? I mean, we've got a lot of things coming that are kind of doing the same thing, same theme, eliminating touch points, getting things quicker from point A to point B, whether that's in a product or even a process, right? What's coming?
Yeah. So the theme of the year was make it easier to buy from Marco. make it easier for our people, or easier to sell, we say, so easier for our people to help our customers with what they need, and then make it a more efficient along the way. And so if we look at the easier to buy, what Marco has done is a lot of the savings that we've gotten from these initiatives of just-in-time and PO automation, which we'll probably hit on here, we've reinvested in the business in other areas to help make it easier for our customers to buy from us. So one of those things that's going to come out this month, drum roll, thank you.
I've been looking forward to this, by the way.
I know.
I'm glad that we're on record now.
I know. We're officially on record that we are launching Marco's customer portal. And so this month, we're going to have our first customers that are going to be able to transact and self-service with Marco's services. So if you're a customer that has managed IT services, or if you're somebody that consumes our field services teams, you'll now be able to self-service and interact with those tickets, where prior you'd only had to pick up the phone and call, or you had email. So we're giving a third way for people to transact. And every age group is different, and so we're trying to help make sure that we cover all of those.
What do you mean by age group is different? I know what you mean on that. You're talking generational.
Generational.
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Jeff. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah,
I don't know how to do it.
I anticipate that my kids will probably never pick up the phone. They will text me, or they'll send me some dance moves or something, fancy in a video. But that's just the way that they communicate. And we're finding every generation, they interact differently with tools and services. So some people want to pick up the phone. Some people want to just self-service and create a ticket. And so that's what we're trying to do with the reinvestment that we've done from some of the other savings. One of the big projects this year that has affected our customers and Marco is around just automation of the sales process. So along with that just-in-time of toner delivery, we are also automating the process from the time somebody places an order with us all the way through invoicing. And so now we can give real-time tracking information to customers, automated instead of having to request it. We can push those orders from entry to invoice all through the system. And
we've saved some serious dollars doing that, in addition, right, to adding more value to the employee and the customer experience. But we've certainly saved some serious dollars on that. But also, I think we've reinvested it. So a lot of times people think you get more efficient, and it's a code word for we spend less or we have less people. But sometimes it means growing without adding cost. That's a benefit, right? Yep. But what it also means is saving the dollars to put into some other useful parts of the business, right? Yeah, so for the example of the automation of POs that we did, that process not only gave our customers a better experience because we were able to more quickly identify when product was going to be here so we could schedule the work. Okay, so things were getting done quicker for our customers. They also were able to get real-time tracking information. But on top of that just all of the automation, we estimate about $650,000 of savings to Marco in a year. All of those dollars then allow us to reinvest in a Marco customer portal and some of the other initiatives that I can't quite talk about yet. But there's lots of really cool things. I wish he'd go on record, Doug. I know. Once he says it, he has to do it. You know the deal. He must have a great boss. Anyway, go ahead, Clay. Keep going. And so those are the areas that it does mean more profitability. It does mean more efficiencies for the company. But when you have the mindset of reinvesting to drive that efficiency even further, like Marco does, that's where the big benefits come. So what does it take to pull something like this off? Because it's not easy, right? It is not easy. It's not just you and your team. There's other stakeholders. Yeah, and I'll talk about all the different roles that we do. But it starts with a mindset around efficiency. You have to understand that companies are made up of lots of processes, whether they're defined or undefined. They're still processes to get from A to B, and almost all of those processes can be improved. And even the most efficient companies, there's areas that you can fix or you can improve upon. And so, just having that mindset at a leadership level to go, we're not efficient, or not as efficient as we can be, and how can we get better? And then it's slicing those things up into small enough pieces that we can handle them. Clay, I remember back when we first initiated Lean as part of our continuous improvement discipline, something I recall on that, there's only one best way to do everything. Yeah. Only one best way to do everything. And our goal is to try to find that, right? Yep. In every process. And it's interesting. So the first thing that we do is we start out by just mapping a process out. It's so often that
especially Marco, we've been doing this a long time. Many of the processes just happen. People we have a lot of long-term employees. This happens. So what we do is we have a role at Marco called a business analyst, and their role is to document a process from start to finish. And it's very interesting when you start to put those things down on paper, how often they'll span 3 walls in a room, right?
Yeah,
and then it's like, wow, this is way more complex than we thought. And then the next step is to go through and go, how can we pull pieces of those out? How can we make data move from one spot to another? Or how can we make it more efficient by moving it to a different team, for example, that might be more fit for that role? And so that's really the first part, and that's that data analyst role that we work in.
So you get the organization committed, and any other steps you want to talk about once you get there, that you need to take to make these things successful?
First thing is identifying those processes. Second thing is having the right team members to then provide the automation behind it. So in our groups, we have really 3 functional areas. We have the business analysts that understand the current process, and they help us to identify the areas of opportunity. Then we hand it over to our development group, and we have a developers that then can take and automate each one of those different areas, or help to move data from one area to another, or pull data from another site. And that is how then we shrink those processes over time.
You know, you've always got a lot of projects going on. And last I heard, there was probably around 200, right?
There's a lot.
So how do you decide? You know, because I know I always want to have something related to my area of the business, and somebody else wants something related to their area of the business as a priority. How do you make those decisions? How do you evaluate those projects?
On a daily basis, I am unpopular with many people.
Yeah, because you get one yes and a whole bunch are going to get a no, right?
What happens is when we automate something in the company, or we make somebody's job better because they get rid of some of the junky work or cruddy work that they don't want to do, and what happens is other people see that success, and then they think, hey, I should submit this idea. And really the best ideas for efficiency come from the people that are doing them. And so we've got a process at Marco that you can head out to our intranet site, and you can submit a request for anything that you think should be improved upon. And it's very easy. It just says, what do you think we should improve upon? What's the return on investment, and who does this affect? And so what we do is we categorize all of those 200 plus that are currently in the funnel, and go, out of the 200 projects, we can effectively do, let's say, 30 in the next quarter. And so we look at how many people does it affect? What kind of a return on investment does this take? You know, if it's going to take one person, a developer or a BA, 8 hours, but we're going to save 16 hours a week, that's a pretty good return. And so that's how we evaluate all of the incoming solutions. If we're going to make a change that affects 200 people, and each of them saves a half an hour a week or a month, versus something that just affects one person, that's kind of how we evaluate these. And so there is a process that we go through and make sure that we take the ones with the biggest low-hanging fruit, but the biggest ROI to the organization.
I think for Marco employees or even other stakeholders that are listening to this, best ideas come from employees. I think that's the one thing you said that resonates with me, because it's true. And as smart as we may think we are in this room, you know, we don't know the things we can't see very well, and I think that's important. But there are challenges. I know you and I we work very closely together, as I'm the best boss you've ever had. And I think, did I just slip that in there?
You did it again.
Another credit taker.
I did not disagree.
Yeah.
You better, because
now he's a brown noser. I got a credit taker and a brown noser here. Where does that put me?
But this is a really leading question, because there's so many challenges that I've been able to guide you through as your boss and mentor. No, I'm kidding. But you do bring challenges to me, and what shares with us what some of those challenges have been.
As we just indicated, that we have a crisis of opportunity, and I think most organizations do, meaning there's more work that is desired to get done than we possibly can get done.
And that's a good problem to have.
It's a great problem to have,
right?
Yeah.
Yep. So within that crisis of opportunity, we prioritize the projects that we can fit based on our capacity of a team. And so the question begs is that if we have more we can do and more we can save, well, just add members to the team. That's the problem. It's really hard to find people that have these specific talents. And then COVID has really thrown a wrench in, because when you bring in somebody that has to learn about your business and your data and where stuff sits in databases and which tools people use and how they work, if you can sit next to them in a cubicle and reach over and go, hey, where do I find this? They can continue on with their work. Well, when they're working from home and they're a new employee and they go, I don't know how to do this, and let me look at my supervisor. Oh, their next opening is 3 hours from now. Yeah. Well, now they're stuck, right? And so the typical time to bring on an employee, 1 or 2 months pre-COVID, is more like 6 or 7 months now. And so that has been the biggest challenge this year, is just we want to do more, but it's hard to get the talent, and it's hard to get the talent on.
So, we talk about the challenges we have and how we prioritize, and invariably you can do all those things and still things don't go as planned. Outcomes aren't as expected. So tell me a little bit about some of the things that maybe haven't quite worked out.
Anytime we're doing custom things, software development, for example, it's inevitable that timelines are going to get missed. And we do our best to have the very best information going into a project. And we say, we're going to do this, and it's defined. We get 3/4 of the way through it. We find out, well, we actually also need to do this, and this. And so we call that scope creep. And scope creep is like the arch enemy of digitization, because if projects get never ending. And unfortunately, we do have to have a start and a stop. And if there needs to be another phase to a project, that's okay too. But it's really important that we actually implement what we work on. And so that's probably the biggest thing, is scope creep and just timelines and setting realistic expectations to not overpromise.
Well, it's good to see as we embark upon these things, and we see the positive results. It just fires you up. It's a good way to see the business evolve and grow and flourish. And I think it's a lot of hard work, but our people and our team see it. And I think as other organizations that are listening to this do the same thing, they're gonna be fired up about it as well. So anyway, I think we're about that time where we should make sure that when you automate, if we're going to leave you with a few things, we make sure you don't do harm to your organization, right? I guess you guys would agree with that. And there's certainly a balancing act, and it's not easy work, right?
It is not,
and it does take an investment. I think we've seen that too. We were just talking about G&A, Jeff, earlier today.
We sure were. We always are.
We are.
Or somebody else is asking about us.
Yeah. It's worth the investment, because it will, if you do it right, it will strengthen your organization. And I think that solidifies your future. And Clay, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks, Clay. Thanks for doing playing to your strengths, because as Doug and I talked about early on, it's people like you that help make us look better, because you're playing to your strength and lets others play to their strengths. Now we got to figure out what ours are, but you're certainly helping us bring us to a new level in automating and being more efficient. Thanks for doing that.
You bet. It's a fun job to have, and the positive outcomes are rewarding for everyone, and that's fun to see. Fun.
Well, thanks for everybody else. Thanks for listening today. Please, if you haven't, subscribe to the podcast and like us and give us feedback, and tell us what tell us what you'd like to hear. And we're accommodating in that way. So thank you very much. Have a great week. And until next time, let's tech.